What up, Willie? Good to
What?
see you.
Yeah, what's up, Jimmy? How are you today?
Good. One day we're just gonna have to play that whole song. I get
Yeah.
so into it and then it just stops.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Old Kenny Arrow, he does good work. I'm looking forward to more material by him. So
Oh, does he still do music?
yeah, he's married and he's trying to become a Canadian citizen. He's from Maryland, so he's coming back from Ontario down to Maryland, staying a little while in Maryland, going back to Ontario until his Canadian citizenship is fully realized. So he's going to be soon a Canadian citizen.
Good for him.
Yeah,
Congratulations. That's awesome.
yeah, and yeah, he be. I forgot what I think it's Toronto. He lives in Toronto. So I don't know
Okay.
if you ever been to Canada. Any?
When I was a baby, I don't remember it.
Uh, I've been to, yeah, I was in Toronto in 2003. I got interviewed by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation when I was there. Believe it or not. Yeah,
Dang.
I wish I could find that video because it really happened.
So why did you get interviewed?
Okay, this is going to be it's going to sound weird, but it's the true story. When
Okay.
I was in the Socialist Party USA, I represented the Socialist Party USA at the New Democratic Party Federal Leadership Convention. So there I mean, it's a third party in Canada, but it's a large third party and kind of operates the way that the Green Party here, but obviously more successful. They're the reason why Canada is slightly better than the United States in many ways. So,
Right.
and they make sure that the liberals and the conservatives are held accountable, which is
Mm.
why we need a strong third party. So, they found out at the celebration dinner of the late Jack Layton, that there was this American socialist there. So they tracked me down, they interviewed me, and they were asking me about what brought me up here, and that I was just an anomaly up there because not only was I a socialist, but I was a socialist with a mildly southern accent.
Hmm.
So
Very interesting.
yeah,
In Canada.
in Canada, yep. And so that's my story about Toronto. It's a very nice city. Um, just I highly recommend Toronto to anyone. So I wish I could have seen more of Toronto, but I did enjoy the time I was there for that reason too.
Right, right. Okay, well that's cool. In 2003, so when I was graduating high school, you were out there in Canada getting politics done. It's pretty awesome.
Exactly. I mean, I was just an observer, but I also got a chance to meet up with some of the members of parliament, and in fact, I was doing shots with the outgoing former leader of the NTP, Alexa Madonna. I think that was her name. I think that's her name. We were doing shots and talking and everything like that. And as I said, I met probably about half of the members of parliament in the Canadian Parliament that was at the convention.
Wow, dang. That's so cool. Look
Yeah,
at
yeah,
you hanging out with big people.
yep. Attended a little anti-war rally that was out there at the convention. But this was prior to the Iraq War, and Iraq War was like the upcoming Iraq War was esteemed. So
Oh, wow. That's
yeah,
cool. I've
yeah.
only got to I've only been able to ever meet like a person of parliament before, and I met him before he was ever any of that. And that's the one that's newly elected in the UK, that guy from RT News. I got to
With
meet him once.
George Galloway.
Yeah, him. I got to meet
Uh,
him once. Now he's a
yeah.
member of parliament, so
Again, yeah, he's interesting. I enjoy. I can with that Scottish brogue of his. I could just listen to him. Just
it's
go.
those rolling of the R's. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I always wonder if it's like he's doing it on purpose or if that's just how they talk.
I have a friend from Scotland, a Trotskyist friend from Scotland who lives. Well, he lived in Maryland. He actually moved back to Raleigh. He and his wife decided to come back down here. And no, the the accent is there. You know.
Okay, so the rolling of the R's is
Oh
real.
yeah, yes, yeah. So
Okay, okay.
yeah, his name is Jimmy. If you ever Jimmy Harkin, if you ever go down on Franklin Street in Chapel North Carolina, you see somebody playing the bagpipes. There's like a 99% chance it's that guy.
Oh, okay. Very
Yeah,
interesting. All right,
yeah.
let's say what's up to the chat. I know Mr. H was already in here before we even started, so good to see you, Mr. H.
Good seeing you,
Uh,
Mr. H.
yeah, we got Rick coming
Yep.
from the deep, deep south. How is
Hey,
hell today?
how you
Any
doing, Rick?
newcomers? Daniel Very Sports Highlight. We also got Estern on Twitch. Good to see you. And Saturday, what's up, David? Good to see you over on the Twitchy Twitch. Look at that. Twitch is starting to pop off. That's what I'm
Yep,
talking about.
yep. You got to utilize all the platforms out there.
That's right. That's right. So how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Oh, let's see. I was off yesterday. I have new hours. My new days off is sequenced on Sundays and Mondays, and my parents are leaving next week. They had a lot of doctor's appointments to go to. They come here twice a year for their doctors, well, to visit me, but also doctor appointments that they can't get back home. Specialists, and they had more specialists than usual. We were going to go on a road trip yesterday, but we were, everybody was too tired. So, and they're leaving next week. So,
Oh yeah, you got the whole week then.
I will be able to spend still a little bit of quality time with them on Sunday and Monday. So,
Good.
that's a good thing.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Well, good.
But
I'm glad you got to spend some time with your family this week. That's awesome. And your schedule is now working to your benefit.
yeah, 2 nights in a row off. I mean, hopefully I'll be less tired.
Right, right. And then you started off with this show and then you work the rest of the week. That's like perfect.
Exactly, and it's so much better than Friday because
Yeah.
Friday, when I'm done Saturday morning, my ass is kicked
Yeah.
around in the curb. I mean, literally kicked in the curb. I mean, just
Yeah.
so much shit to do. So,
Nope,
oh
I
well.
understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand. I'm glad that we got it fixed to where it's benefiting you now. So I'm really happy because it doesn't matter to me. I can do it any day of the week and it doesn't matter. So
Yeah, but Friday's that special day to be off. I mean, you
it
really got,
is.
it's also very workable for you too. I think.
Yeah, yeah. If I wanted to do something, then and it could consisted of a Friday, yeah, then I'm absolutely available now to be able to do it. So for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have anything to do, I mean, I'm like literally pushing 40. I never have anything. Maybe
Yeah.
like kids recitals or like the kids like theater stuff, but that's it.
I'm pushing 60, and that's scary.
I know pushing 40 is crazy to me. I was just talking to my mom about that yesterday. It's just wild. Like just seeing all of us like remembering being all like certain ages and we're just so past that now. It's crazy.
I remember when my hair was black all the time and I didn't have to dye it.
Oh, I haven't hit the gray yet. Thank goodness. And I hope I don't have to. My mom she just turned 56. What was it like 2 days ago or yesterday? It was yesterday because that's when I talked to her.
Happy
She
birthday to
just,
your mom.
oh, thanks. Kat, you're doing stuff. She just turned 56 yesterday and she posted up a video of her having dinner with her friends and stuff, and I just started noticing that my mom's got a couple of little gray strands on the side right here that are starting to get pretty prominent. So I'm hoping maybe like my hair will be good until my mid 50s, almost 60s, and then it won't even matter anymore.
My first gray hair, I first found the first little strand of it when I was 26 years old. My first gray hair. I was like, oh, I think that's the first gray hair. And before you know it, by 32 years old, it was white.
Wow, really? 32?
I was 32 and my hair was white already. And I had to go start dyeing my hair. For years, I was dyeing my hair. And I prefer the dark color, but the problem is it's very time consuming and, just,
It is.
yeah, it just, it could be just one more thing added to the budget. Just, You know, I've been told, oh, you look so much better with gray hair. You know, so you look more distinguished. And I'm like, yeah, but I like my hair black
Right?
when it
Right?
used to.
You're like, I'm 32, motherfuckers.
Yeah. I mean, if I could take a pill right now and make my hair turn naturally black again, I would take that pill.
There you go. That's awesome. Hell yeah. I would, yeah, that would be cool. I don't have to, like I said, I don't have to worry about that. Like when I dye my hair just naturally comes out this color. So I'm good
Well,
for now.
the only thing I don't want to be is bald.
Right.
Yeah,
Being
and
bald. Yeah.
I'm doing everything I can to fight the thinning. That I take that little pill and I lather my scalp with the Rogaine. I do all that shit because I am
Oh,
being like that.
oh, that's so cute. Hell yeah. You should talk to my brother about that. Like my brother's in his mid-20s and he's already like thinning out up there and he just
uh,
refuses to do anything. He just wears hats all the time. I'm like, you're
yeah,
making it worse.
tell them to go to the doctor. Tell them that he would like to be prescribed Propecia, but they'll probably give him a generic which is cheaper called finasteride. Tell him to do that, and also if he wants to, it's actually pretty cheap. It's not expensive. It's made to curtail or prevent prostate cancer, but the side effects is it grows hair for people who are thinning on the top.
Okay. I'll definitely talk to him about that. That's interesting. Okay.
It's cheap. It was cheap for me. It costs like 30-day supply costs like about $5.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. So
Okay. I agree though with I think it was Warren that said in the chat that your gray hair and your glasses are like a brand. So
yeah. Well, I remember. I think it was you the other day said that your glasses are not real. What have you? Honestly, if my vision was perfect, I would actually like to wear. I would still insist on wearing glasses.
yeah, because it's just a style, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. That's why I wear the stupid things is because it's a style. It looks cool. I've always wanted glasses like my whole damn life, but my eyes have always been perfect, so I've never been able to. So I just,
I was doing the Weezer thing before Weezer picked it up. So I mean,
right.
I mean, in the '80s that was considered uncool, but unless you were in certain underground subcultures, and
Yep.
so I like to think that hey, I started a trend.
That's fucking right. You damn did.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. I love fucking glasses. I love wearing them. I love the way that they look, all different kinds. Yeah, it's such a vibe. So
Warren told me to take off my glasses for a second.
there you go.
Yeah, I know I don't look right.
You look like you still. There's no difference.
Yeah. Oh well.
Really
Okay.
rubbing it in.
Okay, I guess we should get on with the first story.
All right, you got it. Do you want to start with yours? We can start with yours.
Let's see what we got here. It's been talked about quite a bit, but let's go ahead and get due dissonance view on this. It's called "Rich Podcaster Think You Should Work Till You Die," and it's about squeaky little Ben Shapiro and his worldview, where he's wrong as usual.
Okay.
Ben Shapiro gave a monologue yesterday about the retirement age, insisting that we should raise the retirement age past its current mark of 65. Now, my theory is he's just doing this to build hype around his new rap single, Bitch You Better Work. That's my theory. That's what I'm going with. But it is consistent with his ideology here. So let's take a look at Ben Shapiro explaining why the retirement age is way too low, ridiculously too low, insanely too low.
And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy. Joe Biden, if that were the case, Joe Biden should not be running for president. And Joe Biden is 81 years old. The retirement age in the United States, at which you start to receive Social Security.
Yeah, I thought we all agreed he shouldn't be running for president. I mean, what kind of point is that? The point that's the point for keeping the retirement age where it is. Right? That's a point for encouraging people to start taking it easy once they get to be a certain age, not trying to become the most powerful person in the world.
Yeah, what segment of the population do you think you're arguing with here that thinks Joe Biden should be running for president?
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like
who are you slapping down with that?
He starts to say, under this logic, Joe Biden shouldn't be running for president. But you're Ben Shapiro. Don't you think Joe Biden shouldn't be running for president? Like, are you of the opinion that he's fit to be running for president? So you're kind of arguing against your point, are you not? That's an odd way to start this.
I mean, I guess he thinks what he's doing is neutralizing the libs with that.
Yeah. I don't know, get where you're going with that, man, because
I mean, they don't watch you,
about 80% of Americans think Biden's too old. I think even most of the libs will tell a pollster they think he's too old. I mean, they'll back him anyway, but yeah, most of them still think he's too old.
And you are eligible for Medicare is 65. Joe Biden has technically been eligible for Social Security and Medicare for 16 years, and he wants to continue in office until he is 86, which is 19 years past when he would be eligible for retirement. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years. And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job and they stop working, things go to hell in a handbasket real quick. But
I'm going to take a guess and say that you don't know too many construction workers. You don't know too many truck drivers. You don't know too many people who beat their bodies up for a living. Because the fact of the matter is, you can't work construction until you're 75. Okay? Most of these people can barely make it to their early 60s. A lot of these people die young. You talk about life expectancy. A lot of working class people who beat their bodies up their whole career don't make it to 81 or 86, old enough to be the president or old enough to keep their podcast going. Yeah, the people I know, they lose meaning in their life within 5 years after retiring because they die.
Well, well, we were talking about this before. There's a couple things going on here. One, I've had a pretty unique life experience in this regard because I grew up blue collar, but then I went to college. I did theater, and those people who do theater are usually not from the muscle end of the family. And I got to see the difference in the death rates. There are so many people I grew up with, including my best friend, who are dead. Cancer, misadventure. People I went to college with, they're all still alive. Those people didn't have untimely deaths. However, there is research that a lot of people do die after they retire. Now, I would argue that's because we have a very sick society where a lot of these people retire and they're socially isolated. They don't have any family around them. They're just sitting there watching Murder, She Wrote. I mean, sure, that's going to kill you. But look at these blue zones in Japan, in the Mediterranean. A key component when they go and study these people is they have very strong communities. They have very strong social ties. So that's part of the reason for that. It's not, the answer to that is not make some poor bastard keep going and working at the fucking Walmart until they drop dead at the hosting station, because otherwise they're not going to get to talk to anybody. Maybe there's just something wrong with our culture, that those are the options. Be a greeter at Walmart or die slowly at home.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Put all of that aside, just on a fiscal level and on a logical level. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt established 65 as the retirement age, the average life expectancy in the United States was 63 years old. Today, the average life expectancy in the United States is close to 80. It's totally insane that you believe that you should be able to work from the time that you are essentially 20 to the time that you are 65, which is a 45-year period, pay in, and then you will receive Social Security benefits sufficient to support you and your family, you and your wife or whatever, for like another 20 years.
This is actually just a very anti-human and anti-life argument coming from such a family values guy. The fact that the life expectancy is longer now than it was 80 years ago doesn't mean that the human body is equipped to work 15 years longer now than it was 80 years ago. The increase in life expectancy means that we are able to kind of live past where we used to and kind of chill out and relax for a while before we die. That's what that increased life expectancy. The fact that we're living till 80 scientifically does not mean we're fit to lay concrete until we're 79. Like that doesn't mean anything.
Well,
and also really quick, Ben Shapiro even said it himself. I mean, you're paying in for 45 fucking years. Like, the government is dipping out of your paycheck and your income to pay for this imaginary thing that comes to you at the end of your life. And Ben Shapiro is saying that you can't even enjoy 20 years of, like less than half of what you've already been putting, the amount of time you've paid for it. You should actually only enjoy zero amount of time to it. They're pretty much basically saying that we're going to be paying into Social Security for the rest of our life and never receive it. Like, which, I mean, it pretty much already isn't a promise anyway.
That's what they want. I mean, I bet you he does not want to remove the FICA from, remove Social Security from the check, but to probably pay off corporate welfare is what I bet you he wants to do to it. And essentially, here's the thing: my grandmother retired at 62. She died at the age of 95, and you know what? I think it's absolutely based that she had a pension and Social Security and Medicare coverage granted to her until she was till she parted ways with this world. And I mean, the whole idea of, I mean, 65 is too old to retire. If I had it my way,
grandma died at 64.
If I had my way, we would lower retirement down to 55,
Yeah.
and you won't get Medicare at 65. You'll get Medicare at any age. And I think the Social Security ought to be for everybody through a UBI anyway. So, if he hates what he consider maybe one kind of positive aspects of the status quo, he will have a heart attack when he finds out what I think should be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another thing too is a lot of people believe, like, what's wrong with this whole situation too, in what Ben Shapiro and nobody ever talks about, is the fact that there isn't this like money that's just saved somewhere in the treasury that you've been paying into, and they're like, here's how much you paid into, this is what you get. Like, money is allocated by the government every year, like through like they have like a certain amount of money that they could spend every year, and it goes to certain things, military budgets, it's all different budgets. And whatever it gets allocated to the Social Security budget is how much they can divvy out to the people each year. So it doesn't matter how much you've put into it or how much you've not put into it. When you get it, it's just whatever the government is allocating for that year. And then the next year they're going to allocate a different amount of money. And then by raising it, that means they don't have to allocate any, even less money to what's already going into it. So it's all just a sham anyway. They don't have this money saved somewhere for you. It just goes and gets deleted off of the national debt. So it's all of, like, I believe, like, what it's pretty much like a scheme. It's a scam pretty much. So that's another thing that people don't even talk about either, that really drives me crazy, is like, you're not even promised this stuff in the first place once you retire. So, and you're not promised exactly the amount that you think you're going to get anyway either. So
not only that, you have immigrants in this country that they're paying into a system that they're not going to get. There is that aspect. Also, you're going to have a lot of people dying off at a younger age, because a lot of people don't take good care of themselves. They don't exercise and eat right and all that, and so a lot of people are going to die off. So the money is kind of there, but he wants to create a crisis, like, we don't need it and we need to privatize it, and
that's the problem with the right, is they like to privatize everything.
And what's ironic is they want to privatize and impose this economic social Darwinism, but they also insist on instituting 1950s cultural sensibilities, where the family can go to church on Sunday and have picnics on Saturdays and all of that. Well, the average man and woman in this country don't graduate high school and college anymore and work 30 years in a job that basically give out benefits and vacation times and pensions, or even a stable schedule. I mean, that's a thing of the past. But he doesn't mind that aspect staying in the past. He wants to impose this rigid social conservative 1950s culture, but also impose the social Darwinism, which is totally fucked up.
Yep. Very well said. I agree.
What else we were talking about before we came on? Yeah, I on the one hand, tour guiding is a mental job, but it's also a physical job. And being somebody with a lot of energy and a lot of stamina, I probably worked more than I should have. And yeah, man, it messed me up. I have problems in my joints now because your body's not made to walk 10 miles a day, as I did for 10 years. I was walking 5 to 10 miles a day. I could not sustain that for another 10 years. I have
Yeah.
problems now. I'm not 65.
Yeah, no, this guy is talking about a very specific kind of worker. He's a rich guy. He's talking about the white collar worker. You know, a lot of insurance agents never retire. They work well into their old age because
Right.
they still make money on their existing accounts
Right.
until they retire. And all they're
Right.
doing is sitting around making phone calls anyway. So
Right.
you can do that at 79
Sure.
and still make a
Sure.
lot more money than Social Security would pay out. But working people who actually work with their bodies, no, you cannot do that until you're 79
No.
just because the life expectancy is longer. That is just an
Sure.
absurd point.
No,
All
everyone
right.
I know in construction, they are destroyed by the time they're 50. They got fucking shoulder problems and knee problems. Everything's fucked up.
Yeah, no, it's brutal.
That's crazy talk. That is not fiscally sustainable. The notion that if you have to raise the retirement age to 67 or 68, that everyone is going to fall apart. My parents are that age. My parents are not retired. And they shouldn't retire. It would be very bad for them to retire.
What
By
do
the way,
they
it's
do?
disrespectful to people who are
I would just love to know what his parents do, that they're able to
For
work so
real,
far into
what
old
does
age.
his parents
I would love to know
do?
the answer to that.
67, 68, 69 years old to suggest
Executives.
that they are in the same shape.
What?
I think they work in Hollywood, in the entertainment, behind the scenes in the entertainment industry.
I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna Google it.
People who are 65 were in 1940. It's not true at all. Have you met a 65-year-old lately? 65-year-olds are not old in the United States. They're not.
The ones you're around aren't old in the United States. You meet a 65-year-old who's been driving UPS their whole life. They look pretty fucking old.
Oh yeah.
Well, not
If
only
I was
that.
if I was Ben Shapiro's parents, I wouldn't fucking retire either. His mother was a TV company executive and his father was a composer. The guy instructed people to play instruments on a stage, and his mom divvied out jobs to people to do shows.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Come on.
here's the thing. I mean, I don't want to make it Republican versus Democrats, and both parties suck. But the thing about it is that you know, when they had this notion of MAGA, he's not a MAGA Republican. He's more Bush Cheney era. But the point is that they try to put this notion, oh, the Republican Party is now the working class party. They're working class people in both parties. That's a silly thing to say, but you know, to try to look like you're out for the little guy. Ben Shapiro is the furthest thing from that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree.
The only
Actually,
thing that's
because
little about Ben Shapiro, I'm going to make my assumptions for what I've heard about him and his performance with his wife, and I'll just leave it at that.
testosterone is dropping. Men are not as strong as they used to be. So your idea that we're becoming a race of supermen is completely wrong.
Yeah,
it's quite the
completely
opposite.
wrong. Yeah, just look around. Exactly. Can't all be like me.
Yeah.
68-year-olds are not old in the United States.
Uh-huh.
Again, Joe Biden thinks he's not old, and that dude is running for president again, and that dude actually is old, and he's 81. I fail to see how a country in which our entire leadership class is 80 plus is telling you that we should have a retirement age of 65. It makes no sense at all.
All right.
And who are the people who are saying that's a good thing? Who are the people who are saying that's working out real well? As you pointed out, Ben Shapiro would be the first one to say that's a bad thing.
Right.
So why are you arguing the other side of it?
Yeah, no, he's arguing against his own point there. And just on a more philosophical level, you know, people who make a lot of money tend to find meaning in making a lot of money. That's why they do. They do it for the money.
Right,
They're motivated by money. So I can understand how it's much more likely that a person like that would fall into this existential crisis once they stop doing that, because they're very passionate about the pursuit of wealth and money. Whereas if you have a more sort of civic-oriented profession, every teacher that I know who has retired was thrilled to retire. They were counting down the days 5 years back when they could retire. They go on cruises, they go on vacations, they'll buy a house down in down in South Carolina now. Like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is like the Miami of the Hudson Valley. Like that's where the people all retire to. They love it. Their lives are unbelievable. They love being retired. They love being retired. They don't suffer from lack of meaning. I think the people who suffer for lack of meaning are people who derived all their meaning in the first place from creation of wealth and money, and in ways that are not so physically taxing on the body, where they feel like they need to wind down after 45 years on the job, right? Like if you're making a lot of money sitting down in an air-conditioned office, I could see how retiring all at once, you think, oh, what do I do? Right. I still feel physically okay. I still have this drive in me to go out and produce and earn and crush it, and I'm not doing it anymore. I can see how that could fuck with you psychologically. If you've been working on, like I said, construction sites, if you've been working a blue-collar job for 45 years, that's about all your body could take. You know, if you're a teacher and you have a community of people around you who you've gotten to know, who you can spend quality time with after you retire, they love it. Every single one, to a person, they love it. Nobody says, oh, I miss teaching. Nobody quits teaching after 45 years and says, oh, I miss it. I wish I could go back.
You know, that in my experience, teachers are often married. And I think that makes a difference too.
Probably.
There are studies that show a lot of people die pretty quick after retirement because for too many people, that's their whole social outlet.
Well,
And
yeah.
then when they retire, but it's a separate issue.
That speaks to what you were talking about earlier.
Right. They're just alienated. We have a very alienated society, and we don't have the kinds of family institutions where the elders are going to be surrounded by the next generations. The kids move to freaking Baltimore, and you're all alone.
Please clap.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, my dad's a retired school teacher, and thing about it is, and my mom retired early, extremely early too, earlier than my dad did, and thing about it is, I mean, he was definitely glad to get away from the classroom. Oh my God, it was just. You ever seen the movie The Class of 1984?
No.
Yeah, I highly recommend that movie. I think sometimes it's free on YouTube. Anyway, the Roddy McDowell character was a teacher, and he snapped. He held the class at gunpoint lecturing. Oh, that was a funny scene too. I mean,
yeah, I bet.
So, but yeah,
teachers don't have it easy for sure.
No, they don't. And when they attack teacher unions, it makes me angry. My dad's job was saved because of the NEA. A student attacked my dad in 1982 in the bathroom, and my dad, who looks like Mr. Rogers from PBS, he underestimated my dad, and my dad body slammed this kid because he was defending himself. And they ended up trying to get my dad fired, the parents and all that. And the NEA appointed my dad a lawyer, and he was able to keep his teaching job. So.
Oh wow, damn. Yeah, it's tough out there, and yeah, I agree. They're when they retire, they don't regret it. I mean, what Ben Shapiro was saying is just stupid, typical Republican talking points of no Social Security and working until we die. So
here's the thing. They believe that we are made to serve the economy when the economy should be made to serve all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We should be paid more and work less hours with the technology that we have, and that's not happening.
No.
And they like it that way. It can be restructured where everybody could live comfortably, work shorter hours, get paid more. And let me tell you, I'm looking forward to retiring because when I retire, I could do an hour show every day instead of maybe a couple of times a week.
Yeah, there you go. I think a bill just got put in to do a 4-day work week.
Yeah, Senator Bernie Sanders put in for a 32-hour work week while you keep your 40-hour pay.
Yep. Which,
and and even though I do criticize Bernie Sanders quite a bit, that's a reminder of why he was my only voice in Washington for many years.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
it's good to see that he's still. I'm still disappointed and upset with him, but it's good to see that he's still out there doing good stuff.
Yeah,
as small as it is, it's still good.
Oh, it will make a difference in my life.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I might hate my job a little less.
Yep.
Yep.
There you go. That's all that really matters, is to hate your job a little less.
Exactly. So
all right, so we'll get on to mine. Last week I talked about it, or it's just been all over the news. Senator Schumer said that Netanyahu was a blockage to peace, that they should do some new elections that the people of Israel probably don't want. So been really interesting. This 2 days ago, Netanyahu reacted to what Chuck Schumer said and went on to CNN himself to answer some pretty decent questions. I'm trying to look for her name and I can't find it anywhere on here. I know it's got to be somewhere. Anyway, this CNN reporter. So we will watch Netanyahu. Don't get too mad and scream at the TV, you guys. I'm just saying.
Here with me now is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with that potential deal, sir. 100 hostages are still being held by Hamas. You're sending that negotiating team to Qatar in the coming days to talk about a potential deal, 3 hostages in exchange for a 6-week pause in fighting. As you know, Hamas is demanding the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for roughly 40 female hostages. Are you open to that? Are you close to a deal?
Well, time will tell, but Hamas's outlandish demands, and I'm not itemizing every one of them now, makes that deal a lot more difficult. But we're going to keep on trying because we want those hostages back. We understand also that the one thing that gets Hamas to give them is to give these hostages to us is the continued military pressure that we're applying there. So we're going to continue military pressure, and we're going to continue to try to get those hostages out. And we've succeeded already in bringing half of them out. I hope we continue along that same course.
Let's talk about what happened here in the U.S. this week. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer gave a pivotal speech and said, "You have lost your way," and called you an obstacle to peace. Take a listen.
The Netanyahu coalition no longer fits the needs of Israel after October 7th. And I believe that holding a new election, once the war starts to wind down, would give Israelis an opportunity to express their vision for the post-war future.
Chuck Schumer is the highest-ranking Jewish elected official here in America, a staunch supporter of Israel. What's your response?
I think what he said is totally inappropriate. It's inappropriate to go to a sister democracy and try to replace the elected leadership there. That's something that Israeli public does on its own. We're not a banana republic. I think the only government that we should be working on to bring down now is the terrorist tyranny in Gaza, the Hamas tyranny that murdered over 1,000 Israelis, including some dozens of Americans, and is holding.
I love how he has like a hypocrisy in the same sentence. He's like, America should leave us alone and let us have our own elections, but Palestine, we should topple their government and totally like put in whatever we decide is good for them.
Yeah, on top of that, during the Obama presidency, what happened is that he did everything he could to undermine the Obama presidency from over there with the blessing of the U.S. far right here. And the Speaker of the House, what was his name, John Boehner, had it arranged where Netanyahu did a speech in the joint session of Congress, and in the joint session of Congress, basically that plan was to throw a monkey wrench into the arms control treaty between the United States and Iran, that peace treaty, which was working, but Trump pulled the U.S. out of that treaty. But he is a gigantic hypocrite.
Yeah. It's crazy in the same sentence to me, like how he can do that. Like, you shouldn't control elections, but we got to control elections here. Yeah.
I mean, and the United States actually do like to control elections in other countries, by the way,
Oh, so, absolutely.
And if any country needs to have an election right now around the world, it is Israel, with one of the worst heads of states around in the world right now. I mean, I consider him a dictator. I don't consider him a leader of a free country. When somebody tried to basically eradicate the Supreme Court from having any power in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
He's a dictator.
He is, definitely is.
And genocidal too.
Americans and Israelis hostage. That's what we should be focused on. And as far as what Senator Schumer said, the majority of Israelis support our governments. 82% of Americans support Israel instead of Hamas, but the majority of Israelis support the policies that we're leading. Go into Rafah, destroy the remaining Hamas terrorist battalions, make sure that we don't put into Gaza, instead of Hamas, the Palestinian Authority that educates their children towards terrorism and the annihilation of Israel, and also an enormous majority here, including 99 Knesset members to 9, oppose the idea of ramming down a Palestinian state down our throats.
I want to get to
the
some of those
majority of
polls
Israelis, this is a
in a
wake-up
minute.
call to Senator Schumer. The majority of Israelis support the policies of my government.
Oh.
It's not a fringe government. It represents the policies supported by the majority of the people. If Senator Schumer opposes these policies, he's not opposing me. He's opposing the people of Israel.
Okay, I'm going to get to some of the polls that you
Opposing the
cited in
people
one
of
moment, but I
Israel.
just
What a
wanna
deflection.
Make sure that our viewers understand that Chuck Schumer gave the big speech.
It is a
But
French
he has
government
support.
at this point.
Huh?
Oh, he said that it wasn't a French government. It's exactly a French government. I mean, it's the most right-wing government Israel's ever had in its 75-year history. I mean, all the bad things Israel's done over the decades, compared to what they're doing now, is nothing compared to what they are now. I mean,
Right.
The secularism is gone. Any Western liberal sentiment that did exist in Israeli society is gone because of this damn government that got elected. I mean, it's actually the worst government. George Galloway said that Netanyahu, the government is so far to the right that Netanyahu is actually a moderate in that government. That's how fucked up they are today.
Yep. No, that's what I've been hearing. It's just interesting his deflections that he does. Like, there's polls out there that say that the people of Israel are tired of Benjamin Netanyahu, just him himself, like nothing about the government or anything else, just tired of him running the country. And what he says is the people love my government and the people in my government. Didn't say anything about himself, deflected himself onto the government, and then tells her as an American that if you're going against my government, then you're going against the people of Israel. So deflecting off of him and putting the blame onto the people of Israel of why he's such a bad leader and making these horrible decisions and people don't want him in office. The deflection there is it's going to keep going, just so you guys know. It's going to get even more. I just wanted to point that part out.
Jimmy, do you remember when Pope Francis spoke in the joint session of Congress about a decade ago as well?
Probably not.
Well, he spoke around the same time. I don't know if he spoke first or Netanyahu first, but a lot of the right wing, they were like absolutely worshiping Netanyahu, and some of these same right wingers, some of them Catholic, mind you, act like that Pope Francis is the worst person in the world and he's a socialist scumbag and all of this because he's a little more progressive than the previous popes. But compared to Netanyahu, I mean, they made an idol out of Netanyahu, the U.S. far right, the evangelicals, the neocons, and all of these right wing douchebags out there, and they don't even fully realize what they're doing. These are the people that expound, Christian values and what have you. It's really just mind-boggling.
It is.
In many ways, from the president of the United States. President Biden is a self-described Zionist. Even he is starting to distance himself from the way you are handling the war. He called what Schumer said a good speech. He said that he shared the concern of many Americans. They aren't criticizing Israel. They're criticizing you and your right-wing coalition.
Way to hammer it down on him, girl. Blame
Dana,
him.
there's a fallacy that is being perpetrated here. And you should take polls, you'll have your own polls, and check whether the people of Israel support the policies that I'm being criticized for. That is, supporting the policies of going into Rafah, destroying a quarter of the remaining Hamas terrorist army. That's like leaving a quarter of the Nazi terrorist army in Germany and saying, no, we're not going to finish the last quarter. And we're not going into Berlin. Most Israelis overwhelmingly support the position that we have to go in. They oppose the idea of ramming down a two-state solution or a terrorist state against their will because they think that this will endanger Israel's future. They support those policies that I'm putting forward, and to present that as something that is, I'm an outlier, it doesn't represent the majority of the people of Israel, is simply a fallacy. And I'll tell you the other fallacy is, they're saying, well, most Palestinians don't support the Hamas massacre. In fact, 85% of the Palestinians do support, unfortunately, the Hamas massacre. So they've got two fallacies here, and you can readily check that. The majority of Israelis support the policies that I have on prosecuting the war, which is what I'm being criticized for.
Well,
So it's not just me.
I
It's
think
the people of Israel who believe that we have to have this resolute
I think
victory
that you're.
to assure a future.
I think
and
that what you're
unfortunately,
being criticized
have the
for
Palestinians
is
that
not
haven't aligned
prosecuting the
themselves with
war.
peace yet.
It's the way that you're prosecuting the war. So I'm going to get to that in 1 minute. But I just want to add a little bit of sort of context to the way that the Biden administration is pushing back. Another way is that the U.S. intelligence community warned that, quote, distrust of Netanyahu's ability to rule has deepened and broadened across the public. And then back to the polls, you're talking about support for the idea of toppling Hamas. That makes perfect sense. There were other polls in Israel, 3 major Israeli television stations that said what Israelis also support are early elections. That's what I really want to focus on here is Senator Schumer not calling to sort of topple the government, but specifically says when the war winds down, will you commit to calling new elections? That's my question. Will you?
Dana, 2/3, first of all, what you said is wrong. The vast majority of Israelis oppose early elections until the war doesn't end. We've just had many polls on that. Look, a lot of the polls are twisted.
Channel
You
12
hear that
says-
Freudian slip really quick? I wanted to point that out too. He said when the war doesn't end. I don't think anybody has mentioned that Freudian slip yet.
I didn't notice it till you brought it to my attention there.
Yeah.
Yes.
When the war doesn't end. So yeah. I just want to throw that in.
Channel 12 says 64% of Israelis support early elections.
But all polls show that's not. No, I'm afraid that they asked them the question, do you support it during the war? And they said no.
But that's not what
Okay?
Schumer is
So
calling
number
for.
one,
He's
they haven't
calling for
supported
new
it.
elections
go
when
by
the
the
war
polls-
winds down.
Well, we'll see when we win the war. And until we win the war, I think Israelis understand that if we were to have elections now, before the war is won, resoundingly won, we would have at least 6 months of national paralysis, which means we would lose the war. If we don't win the war, we lose the war. And that would be not only a defeat for Israel, but a defeat for America too, because our victory is your victory. We're fighting these barbarians that are not merely threatening the survival of
when
Israel,
the war
but
winds
threatening
down?
everything that we hold dear together.
Will you commit to new elections when the war
I think
winds
that's something
down?
for the Israeli public to decide. But it's not something. No, look, that's something for the Israeli people to decide. I think it's ridiculous to talk about it. It's like after 9/11, after 9/11, you're in the midst of fighting the war against Al Qaeda, and an Israeli would say, you know what we need now is either new elections in the U.S. or if your system doesn't allow, then President Bush should resign and we should have an alternative leader.
We should have done that.
Let's talk about why.
A sister democracy to an ally. You don't talk about that. What you do talk about is how do we help you defeat what President Biden called sheer evil. You don't just stop after you destroyed 80% of sheer evil. You destroy 100% of sheer evil.
So yeah, the you gotta love that.
Joining me now is Fareed's.
That sheer evil right there at the end. Some more name calling. Earlier, he had said, if we win the war, our win is your win to her as an American. So I wanted to point that out too, a little bit more deflecting, if we lose, then you lose, if it's America, it's your war too, kind of thing, more deflection of him. But yeah, crazy.
He said after 9/11, the U.S. having elections. U.S. had elections in 2002 and 2004 and 2006 during this, all these years of this war on terror and all that. So he don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Right. Well, I mean, we should have gotten, after we found out that there was no weapons of mass destruction and stuff, we should have impeached Bush. And I'm sorry, but
he should be in prison. Bush and Cheney and all of those motherfuckers. Right.
But we still kept it a secret and kept going on with Libya and all the rest of them in Afghanistan. And we just kept it going. So,
And it doesn't matter.
We should have done it. So, yeah.
Doesn't matter who's the president. They kept the same Bush Cheney bullshit for foreign policy. And I'm mad about that and everything. And here's the thing. The world is not as hostile toward Israel when Israel kind of have left center governments. I mean, honestly, they haven't had a labor Meretz government since 2000, and they have had a brief period of a centrist government called Kadima, and then it's been mostly Netanyahu all these years, and Netanyahu has been the problem in that, Netanyahu has been the source of the problem in modern times in Israel, and even Hamas. You can connect that with Netanyahu because it, the Mossad created Hamas. A lot of people don't realize that it was Hamas was created by, groomed and nurtured and funded by Hamas to destroy the leftists that used to occupy what was the PLO all these years. So the PLO's influence has withered away, in which was secular and left leaning in favor of fundamentalism, and that was done by the Israeli Mossad by design.
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah, to me, Hamas and Netanyahu, there's a fine line. It's a fine line right there, and he loves them around. He loves keeping them around because he can justify this.
Exactly. And that's the whole point too. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's to justify even, for America to keep, weapons and stuff there in Israel for the entire Middle East. So,
I wish that we just stop funding them, or at least tell them, you want the money coming to y'all. You're going to have to stop this slaughter that you're doing, and you're going to have to negotiate. You're going to have to do a negotiation with Palestinians, with, at a very minimum, a Palestinian state. If I had it my way, there would be a successor to both the Palestinian and the Israeli state, like a new state that's secular, that accommodates all people. That would be desirable, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, absolutely not. They'll always find something to blame. Yeah, they'll find something to blame. They'll say, for starving Gazans, they'll say, why don't you guys worry about the Houthis? Or if they'll say, you don't want us to have a religious state, then tell that to Saudi Arabia, So, because we allow our allies to do things that we don't allow our enemies to do. And so, when other allies get to do those things and another ally wants to do the same thing in their own way, how are we to tell them no when we're allowing other ones to do it?
And even with the Jewish community here in the United States, majority of them do not support what Netanyahu is doing. The source of support is from the evangelicals, the people who care about little babies dying in the U.S. because of abortion, but they don't mind little babies dying because of the IDF.
Well, they're using Israel as a pawn to kind of self-fulfill prophecy. They're, what's in Revelation, so...
Yeah, I mean, the next time some pro-life idiot tells me about the little babies and everything, I mean, I'm going to tell that person to shut the fuck up because they support killing babies in Gaza.
Yeah. Well, most of them are completely uneducated on the history of that entire place too. I mean, I think they still I've heard them consider them Muslim bad people. They don't even know what the Nakba is. So, they're not even educated in the history either. And they're only being told by the pastor or whoever leads the place that they go and worship. So, and that's all they're getting. They're not listening or doing their own research either too. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing: they're not all Muslim either.
No, they're not. But that's just what they say. The Muslim bad guys.
Sizable Christian community in the Palestinian areas. So a lot of them are secular.
Yeah,
there's some
of them are Israel. Some of them are Jewish. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a diversity in the religious culture in Palestine. They're all a bunch of Muslims dress up in burqas and and all of that. They try to make it out to be.
Right. I agree. Yep. Yeah. All right. So let's get on to your next one, the Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah, the reason why, and sort of kind of ties into what we were talking about here, why that there is a new bipartisan plan to ban TikTok. It passed the U.S. House, so I guess it's still waiting for it in the U.S. Senate. So
Right. Correct. That is correct.
yeah.
All right. Which still makes me mad. I just want to say really quick, it makes me so goddamn mad that they passed this so fucking quick when they didn't even, come together this quick to ban slavery. But, America.
There's one rule in Washington over the last 25 years, and I had to pick one universal, unyielding rule that has proven true. It is that when the establishment wings of both parties unite in overwhelming numbers in the name of national security, that has as its primary purpose seizing greater power for itself in the name of protecting Americans from whatever foreign threat or domestic threat they claim is immediately the scariest, very bad things always end up taking place. And I would suggest that the level of skepticism that we as American citizens ought to have should be at its highest exactly when both parties are telling us that there is some foreign or domestic threat that is so scary and so dangerous and so grave that the only way to stop it is to hand over more power to the federal government and to the executive branch agencies in the U.S. security state in order to stop it. That is exactly what is happening now at a remarkable level of speed and bipartisan unity in Washington that deserves more than just skepticism. There are a lot of very serious questions that I'm having a hard time finding answers to, and that's what we want to do tonight. This is a topic that we have covered many times before. This issue has been around for quite some time now, which I think is really part of the point. Here, for example, might be the first time that we covered the issue of whether TikTok should either be banned or its Chinese parent, ByteDance, forced to sell TikTok as a condition for remaining in the United States. There you see the show, March 31st, 2023, so almost a full year ago. And the first part of the show was about Rand Paul blocking a censorship bill, and then we had Darren Beatty on to discuss the Douglas Mackey verdict. But there you see at the bottom, Ron Paul blocks off authoritarian anti-TikTok bill. That was what we called the censorship bill, was Rand Paul's success in blocking a bill that was designed to ostensibly ban TikTok, and yet it went further, much further beyond that. And over the years, over the last 3-4 years, they've had multiple instances where they've summoned the CEO of TikTok to the Senate and to Congress to try and rake him over the coals and to try and imply that even though he's not even Chinese, he's Singaporean. And even though he's the opposite of an ideologue, he's a capitalist, somebody who left Singapore to go to London School of Economics, then went on to Goldman Sachs in New York, has the exact classical pedigree of a capitalist trying to make money, not an ideologue trying to spread some ideology, let alone communism. TikTok is a company clearly intent on maximizing profit above all else. This is an idea that has been lurking around Washington for a long time, to ban TikTok and to ban it on the grounds that the Chinese control TikTok and are using it to spy on our youth and to propagandize American citizens. And yet it's really not gone anywhere. There's been no consolidated bipartisan unity in favor of it. There's been no attempt to prioritize it legislatively. All of that has changed radically, dramatically in the last several weeks in a way that is extremely rare in Washington, to watch the two parties come together in a virtually unanimous way and decide that not only is a legislative measure of this significance urgently necessary, but it has to happen immediately. They're using legislative maneuvers they almost never use to catapult it to the top of the agenda. Here's the New York Times from earlier this week. House passes bill to force TikTok sale from Chinese owner or ban the app. Quote, the legislation received wide bipartisan support with both Republicans and Democrats showing an eagerness to appear tough on China. Quote, Republican leaders fast-tracked the bill through the House with limited debate, and it passed on a lopsided vote of 352 to 65, reflecting widespread backing for legislation that would take direct aim at China in an election year. Now, among those 65 No Votes was a very interesting coalition of a coalition we've seen before that we're very interested in, that we hope continues to grow, that you might call the anti-establishment left and the populist right, or the anti-establishment right and the populist left. It had no votes from people like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace and other Trump-supporting members of Congress who associate with the America First or populist or MAGA agenda on the one hand. And then you had members of the squad like AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Ro Khanna and others who identify as progressive, who, and it's not the first time, have come together. They came together, for example, to try and ban American troops from continuing to occupy Syria. You've seen this coalition come together before to try and combat this bipartisan establishment agenda that often appears, and yet they have nowhere near enough representation in Congress to stop a bipartisan majority when it wants to unite, as the leaders of both political parties insisted on uniting suddenly and out of the blue. Again, with the one exception being Donald Trump, who warned that a ban of TikTok would do little other than force tens of millions of Americans onto Facebook and onto Google, especially onto Facebook, which he pointed out has been frequently used by the US government to censor the flow of information. Why would you want to eliminate one of the social media apps, especially the one that the American government has the greatest difficulty in controlling, and consolidate even more power in the hands of the US security state to determine what platforms Americans can use, and therefore the types of information to which they can and cannot be exposed? Now, this question, let's just leave aside for a minute your views on the merits of the bill. I know a lot of you believe that TikTok is a company, an app that is controlled by the Chinese government, that Americans don't go there and express their own views. They're somehow mind controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, that the Chinese Communist Party manipulates Americans into believing things that China wants them to believe, that there's all kinds of spying going on TikTok, even though I've never heard an answer to what kinds of data the Chinese can get from TikTok about Americans that they can't just buy on the open market, that's collected and sold by Google and Facebook,
Right.
and other big tech giants that collect and curate all sorts of private data about Americans, then sell it to advertisers and sell it on the open market, sell it even to the US security state. But let's leave aside for a second the issue of whether this is a good or bad bill, whether it's a good idea to try and expel China from being in the United States via TikTok. And we have covered at length all of these issues about whether TikTok really is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, whether there's any evidence it's being used to propagandize Americans. Let's leave all of that to the side. I want to focus on this question. Why is it that a bill that has been around Washington for 4 years and that has made almost no progress in being turned into law, and there's a lot of reasons for that. TikTok is a very powerful company. They have a lot of lobbyists that work for them. American politicians are afraid of banning TikTok because of how many tens of millions of people, including young people, use it, and the rage that would ensue if it actually got banned. Why suddenly in the last 4 weeks is there this explosion of bipartisan unity and willingness to take the leap, to hold hands, Nancy Pelosi and Marco Rubio, Chuck Schumer and Tom Cotton, Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell? Pretty much the whole gang of Washington are all ready now to join together and to do this. Why? Why did that suddenly happen in the last, say, 3 months? Now, I
could give you an answer.
My own views, my own speculation, my own informed understanding of what I think caused that, but I'm going to refrain from doing that because there are mainstream outlets that have done a lot of reporting, including ones that people generally find more trustworthy than others, that provide the answer to this question. There are media outlets asking this question. Why is it that suddenly this bill has taken on so much force?
You have to admit the timing is
One of the outlets that asked this question, the answer, is the Wall Street Journal in a news article earlier this week entitled, quote, "How TikTok was blindsided by a U.S. bill that could ban it." Executives of the app thought they had fended off these attacks. Behind the scenes, lawmakers and Biden officials were working to force its ban or sale. Why is that? Here's the Wall Street Journal's explanation. Quote, Jacob Hellberg, a member of a congressional research and advisory panel called the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, has been working on building a bipartisan bi-coastal alliance of China hawks, united in part by their desire to ban TikTok. It was slow going until October 7th.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yep.
So this was a
Bingo.
bill that was having a great deal of difficulty until October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
October 7th, of course, was the day that Hamas attacked Israel, setting off this horrific war that's still ongoing into its 6th month of Israel destroying Gaza. Why would October 7th, a conflict between Hamas and Israel, what would that have to do with suddenly taking a bill ostensibly about China and that was slow going and then suddenly accelerating it? Here's the Wall Street Journal. Quote, the attack that day in Israel by Hamas and the ensuing conflict in Gaza became a turning point in the push against TikTok. So that's the answer so far from the Wall Street Journal. What changed in the last few months was October 7th, the Hamas attack on Israel, the ensuing Israeli attack on Gaza. The article goes on. People who historically hadn't taken a position on TikTok became concerned with how Israel was portrayed in the videos and what they saw as an increase in anti-Semitic content posted to the app. I have to stop here again because I just want to make sure this point gets across. And the Wall Street Journal is by far not the only credible outlet reporting this. People who historically had not really cared about TikTok before, that's why it wasn't making any progress in Washington, suddenly became concerned with how Israel was portrayed on TikTok. That is why it picked up so much steam in Washington. Because a lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans who did not think that banning TikTok was a priority, suddenly realized that there was one platform that was allowing a lot of criticism of this foreign country called Israel. And when they saw that, they said, wait a minute, TikTok actually does seem to be a problem to the United States, not because of China or anything having to do with the Chinese Communist Party, but because it seems like there's a lot of criticism of Israel taking place on TikTok. And that is what we can't allow. Now, again, this is not my saying this. This is reporting from the Wall Street Journal about why suddenly this bill has made its way through Congress. Anthony Goldblum, a San Francisco-based data scientist and tech executive, started analyzing data that TikTok published in its dashboard and buyers showing the number of times users watch video with certain hashtags. He found far more views for videos with pro-Palestinian hashtags than those with pro-Israel hashtags. Now, What is the crime that TikTok was found to have committed in the last several months that suddenly caused the bipartisan obsession with punishing it and even banning it? Here's the Wall Street Journal. There were far more views for videos with pro-Palestinian hashtags than those with anti-Israel hashtags.
Yep.
Remember when Nikki Haley said in what seemed like such a laughably preposterous assertion that for every 18 minutes or whatever it was that you spend on TikTok, you become 32% more anti-Semitic? She was responding to studies like these.
Oh my God.
That show that a lot of people who use TikTok, more people who use TikTok were pro-Palestinian than pro-Israel. Now, the last time I checked the American Constitution and the current Supreme Court interpretation of it, as an American citizen, you are actually allowed to be more pro-Palestinian than pro-Israel if you want to be. One of your rights as an American citizen is to take sides in a particular foreign conflict, or to not take sides at all. And people on TikTok were taking sides, and they were taking the side of Palestine more than they were taking the side of Israel. Now, that is not a surprise. And the reason it's not a surprise is because polling data has shown for a long time that young Americans, including young American Jews, are becoming increasingly critical of Israel and its treatment of the Palestinians. You don't have to like that, but that is the reality. And since TikTok is a social media platform where more young people go to express their political beliefs and find political community, it stands to reason that TikTok, as a place where more young people are, would have more pro-Palestinian content than pro-Israel content. Whereas social media outlets that tend to cater to older people like Facebook, probably you would expect to find the reverse. Now, as somebody who believes that the Israelis are more at fault than the Palestinians, and have made my views very clear on that, it would never occur to me in a million years to look at Facebook and see that there's far more pro-Israel content on Facebook than pro-Palestinian conflict, and think to myself, well, we need to do something about that. We need to ban Facebook. We need to change its ownership. Because there are views allowed on Facebook to proliferate that I find highly disagreeable. And yet the people in Congress looked at a social media platform called TikTok that for years they were fine with having exist, and saw that there were too many criticisms of Israel being permitted to proliferate on the platform.
Well, not
And it
only
is
that too, but then like a lot of videos that were on TikTok were proving the IDF falsehoods. The statements they were making were false. They would come out with a statement, and then you go on TikTok and see the video of the Palestinians, of their own TikToks, of what happened there. It was like proof. And the kind of impact too, like they tried to suppress any kind of Palestinian videos on TikTok and any kind of support to Palestine. And what did people do? What did the kids do on TikTok? They freaking turned it into calling them watermelons because red, green, and white, I guess, is the color of Palestine's flag or something like that. So they used a secret code word to be able to talk about the Palestinians. And even it became like a huge thing about watermelon, and like to the point where people made an entire creative Fortnite map where you can just sit there and do games. And the longer time that you're in that Fortnite map, it actually goes towards donating towards like Palestinian Youth Fund or something like that. Like these kids were making a difference, just even how small it was. And I think that's another thing that they're afraid of. I agree with him. I don't really think that has to do with China at all, because if we're going to ban TikTok, then we might as well ban everything that comes out of every fucking grocery store or every goddamn store in our goddamn country, because everything is made from China, especially our cell phones. Like, you want to worry about national security, but you're willing to sell me a Samsung S24 Plus? Come on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they're totally fine when with the manufacturing sector leaving the United States, where there's exploitation of labor in other countries and Americans being cheated out of a living wage job. That's fine, but free speech, whenever it comes to the Palestinian cause, is considered unacceptable, a third rail of sorts. And and here's the thing, I'm with Glenn Greenwald on this. Pro-Palestinian voices have a right to express their point of view, and some of the pro-Israel voices on TikTok, which is pretty damn obnoxious, just taking delight in the suffering of people in Gaza. I mean, as much as I hate that, they're also entitled to their free speech. Free speech doesn't mean, speech that I only like. But the problem with, a lot of the establishment here, they think free speech only applies to things that they like, and anything that's unpleasant, must be banned. Uncomfortable truths of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and so,
yep.
It's crazy, and when people talk about censorship in the United States, which is a problem, just watch out who's the one talking about censorship, because these anti-boycott laws in the United States and half of the states, you could theoretically be put in prison for 20 years and be charged $250,000 for advocating a boycott of Israel products.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. You can go to jail for that, but talk bad about him on a social media app and they're going to ban that too. Yeah. The pro-Israel, pro-Zionist stuff that we have is absolutely frustrating. Did you want to continue with this?
Well, I will. I mean, I think he's pretty much got his point across about what this proposed ban is all about. So, and we're a little bit thin on time, so we'll go with another story.
All right, you got it. Let me remove this so I can paste this and figure out where the hell I'm at. Okay, that's right. So I know we've talked about it already, about all the stuff that's been going on with the Boeing company and the corrupt stuff, the subpar parts and things that aren't working with the company itself. So this weekend, the guy that we were talking about that's been whistleblowing, that was in the middle of a court case and all this stuff, was found shot in his car, and some new stuff has been starting to kind of trickle out, and this was kind of the one I wanted to share the most because it's the one that I've been waiting to hear, because I don't believe that he offed himself. And so here, one of his friends has come forward and has said that, I am not suicidal. So if something happens to me, it wasn't me. So I would definitely am excited to hear about this part, because then it kind of solidifies, that he didn't kill himself.
New developments regarding the death of former Boeing employee John Barnett, who raised concerns about the company's safety and production standards. He was found dead on the 9th of March before he could provide his final deposition in an ongoing lawsuit against Boeing. Now, get this. According to a family friend, the whistleblower allegedly told her, quote, "If anything happens, it's not suicide." So a number of issues being reported, obviously, raising a lot of concerns, including not just about the planes, but the circumstances of this former employee's death under, suspicious circumstances. Has been ruled a suicide, according to Newsweek, found with a silver handgun and a white piece of paper resembling a note. The police department is still making inquiries, and given that he had previously said, if I'm found to have committed suicide, don't believe that. I absolutely understand why people are going to want to take a very close look at this.
Yeah. Also, he has been a whistleblower for years now, but because of the reporting around all of these incidences with these Boeing 737 jets, his testimony has been getting more scrutiny. Now, remember, the testimony he was giving was about retaliation for previous testimony that he had given about the manufacturing issues with these kinds of planes. Recall, there's an expert that we've had on this show, I've had on my own show as well, William McGee, an aviation expert, who pointed out that while at one time the saying was, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, because of a shift in policy at the company where there have been more investments in stock buybacks and kind of corporate enrichment instead of investing in the kind of safety and the support of employees, there have been a growing number of these incidents that have emerged. And something that the deceased Barnett said in a New York Times interview back in 2019 was that he hasn't seen a plane out of Charleston yet that I'd put my name on saying it's safe and airworthy. He believed that he was being retaliated because of making those kind of comments. And also because he apparently was one of the best witnesses that lawyers had ever seen. This is a write-up from Yahoo Finance about the testimony that he was given just before he died. He said, John testified for 4 hours in questioning by my co-counsel, Brian. This is from a fellow named Turkowitz. This was following 7 hours of cross-examination by Boeing lawyers on Thursday. He was really happy to be telling his side of the story, excited to be fielding our questions, doing a great job. It was explosive stuff. As I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, this is the best witness I've ever seen. At one point, says Turkowitz, the Boeing lawyer protested that Barnett was reciting the details of incidents from a decade ago and specific dates without looking at documents. As Turkowitz recalls the exchange, Barnett fired back, I know these documents inside out. I've had to live it. Now, I do think that the compelling nature of this particular witness, the timing of his death is what's leading there to be so much inquiry and interest around how it is that this person, who at least one friend has averred, did not have any suicidal ideation, was frankly happy about his concerns getting a lot of airing because of the national interest in these Boeing flights, taking his own life.
For sure. So they should continue to look in that. And at a time where we're looking very closely at
I know,
Boeing,
right, Mr. H?
given all these safety incidents that I think have people very, very, very spooked. I know our last video on this was a big hit, a lot of views. So clearly people have concerns about flying on these planes now. A company that used to have a really sterling record for safety. And thankfully, and I do say this when we talk about this, that has not resulted yet in planes crashing or falling out of the sky, but could if not taken seriously. And the track record in the air industry of a fairly sterling safety record of a very low number of crashes, I think no crashes, at least in America in the last 10 years, and very, very few deaths, is a good one that we should want to continue, not allow to lapse because of lack of safety standards.
Yeah, I think we should definitely get Bill McGee.
Okay, I don't want to continue on because I'm not even paying attention to them anymore, what they're saying. I just wanted to get that part out. So his friend said that he even said himself, if I come up dead, it wasn't me, I'm not suicidal. So like I was saying, I think when we talked about him either a week or two ago, I want to know where the gun came from, who owns the gun, have they looked at that piece of paper and figured out if that's really his handwriting? We really need to figure that out, because if this was an assassination by somebody in Boeing, then they've got some explaining to do for sure.
That is where I'm inclined to believe the situation to be, because
Right.
you got a company that's not just producing for airlines, but you also got a company that's dealing with the defense industries and that sort of thing, and so I do think that there may be perhaps a deep state connection. Some people call it a Tuesday.
They call it a what?
A Tuesday. Basically, it's business as usual. If somebody's out there making trouble, whistleblowing, they'll deal with you in by any measure, whatever it takes with some of these people. So yeah, that's kind of where I am about this whole thing.
Yep. Right, Mr. H. Business as usual. All right, so we'll get on to yours. Tim Black talking about reassuring Black America.
Yep. Tim Black, and he's critical of Biden from the left, and he's a little more mainstream than he used to be, but he does actually addresses something about Biden and Black voters, and I think it's worth listening to.
All right, you got it. Come on. I don't know why it does this to me. There we go.
Here we go, Black America.
This is simultaneously kind of disgusting. It's insulting as hell, but I can't put my finger on it. On one hand, Joe Biden's been saying this.
And especially for those moments when this campaign was at its lowest ebb, the African-American community stood up again for me. You've always had my back, and I'll have yours.
And then just the other night when he was in an interview on MSNBC, he said this.
You promised Black America that you'd have our back. Do you feel you have our backs?
I have your back. In this video, we're going to debunk, expose, and knock the bottom out of this whole little narrative they got going. If you're going to be able to take this information, share it with your friends who may be lost in the sauce. My name is Tim Black. This is Calling It Out. About Black folks.
Black America that you'd have our back. Do you feel you have our backs?
I have your back, and as much as any president has in American history since Lyndon Johnson. Black wealth has increased by 60%. We're across the board. And I wish you ought to interview some of the business people here, the Black leaders who are here. And they told me about how they're moving. They have loans. They have direct payments that are being made by the government to keep them going. Look, there's not a single thing they can't do. Give it a shot. Just give it a shot. It's not only Black, but Hispanic and Asian Americans.
Well, it looks like Joe Biden stopped taking the medicine that he took during the State of the Union address because he's back to being old Sleepy Joe now. Right back to stumbling and fumbling and barely can put the sentence together. And Jonathan Capehart is a horrible interviewer. This interview that Jonathan Capehart gave is not even a softball interview. Softball would be too hardball. This is a cotton ball interview. Gave by a man that's obviously still picking cotton. And that's Jonathan Capehart. Jonathan Capehart is one of the worst, whatever you want to call these people that are on cable news. Every time I hear him, I wonder, how did he get the job? How did he get the job? But going back to Biden, there's this thing that the Democrats are doing, and this is how they plan to get votes. They plan to have Joe Biden and the rest of the Democratic Party mouthpieces that talk to black people, the black whisperers, to keep regurgitating nonsense, phony ideas, cookbooks, BS numbers, and selling it like, hey, you just don't get it, man. You're doing great, black people. Oh, man, you're doing so amazing. It's amazing. Wow, tremendous. You guys are killing it. Meanwhile, you're literally dying. You're literally being evicted. You're literally being foreclosed on. That's your reality. And you're going to have Jasmine Crockett, Joy Reid, Dr. Jason Johnson, the whole shebang, Kamala, all of them coming out to tell you how stupid you are, how you don't get it, particularly Jim Clyburn, that you don't know just how well you're doing. So let's break down this, man. First of all, this is not the first time that Joe Biden has claimed that black Americans are doing so well in the racial wealth gap category. And before I even say that part, notice how when Joe Biden's talking about black people, he got to throw in the Asians and the Hispanics. No one does that when they talk to Asians.
There's not a single thing they can't do given a shot. Just given a shot. It's not only black, but Hispanic and Asian Americans.
If Jonathan Capehart was Asian and he said, what are you doing for the Asian people? Do you have our backs? Joe Biden wouldn't start talking about black people. He wouldn't throw in there, well, the blacks are doing good too. No, that ain't what we ask you. That's not what we're talking about. It is really condescending. When he talks to women, he don't bring up men. He doesn't say, oh, yeah, the women want to know about what you're going to do about Roe versus Wade. He doesn't end it with going, yeah, and guys are doing pretty well too. We got something there for the testicles. We got some stuff we're doing for the erectile dysfunction disease. Why doesn't Joe Biden do that when he talks to women? Because that would be disrespectful. So just a little something for all my progressive white friends, all my conservative white friends, all my white friends on the globe, guys. A lot of you watch the show. When you're talking about black people stuff, it's okay to keep talking about black people stuff. Don't throw in Native Americans. Don't throw in Asians. Don't throw in Hispanics. Don't throw in the LGBTQ community. Just keep it there. That's a sign of respect. It means I see you. I recognize you're important enough for me to talk about what's going on with you and your people. So first, let's start with the racial wealth gap because that's where Joe Biden starts, okay? He also brought this up when he was in South Carolina. He gave a horrible speech. For some reason, people clapped. They must have been paid to clap. Someone must have been holding up a please applaud sign. Remember this at the Emmanuel Church?
Farmer for these things. You know, we're growing back black wealth. But we have a lot more to do. The racial wealth gap is the smallest it's been in 20 years under my watch.
So when we first look at the racial wealth gap, we got to look at the wealth ratio. And that's just like how black wealth compares to white wealth. So here's what Biden is claiming. Biden is claiming that black wealth, racial wealth went up so much. In 2022, for every $100 that a white family has, a black family had $15.75. For every $100 the white family has, the black family has $15.75. That's actually better than it was. That is the closest black people have been to white wealth in the last 20 years. Yeah, and Biden's applauding that. Applauding it. It used to be much lower, $13. Now it's $15.75 for every $100. Instead of saying, hey, that's still way too low, he's going, hey, we're making progress. We went up a whole $1. You're still grossly less, almost identically where you were, but it did went up a little, so. This is what the Democratic Party is running on for black people. This is what all of the black whisperers by the Democratic Shields, all of the Democratic Party talking heads to come out and talk to black people and tell us how dumb we are. We don't listen. This is what Roland Martin's telling us. This is what Joy Reid's saying. This is what the Native Pod is talking about. This is what they're saying. This is what they're going to try to sell you. Is this $15.75 for every $100? And they call that winning. If I had $100, for every $100, if you had $15, would you consider yourself winning? The answer is pretty simple. No, not even close. But to Biden and the Democrats, the Democratic establishment, and the corporate news media, they want you to think that is what winning looks like for black people. Let's keep going. The other part of this interracial wealth gap is also the dollar amount difference. In 2022, the average white family wealth was $285,000. Now, there's going to be some white families that have a lot more and some that have a lot less. The average white family, $285,000. The average black family, $45,000. Okay? 285 to 45. You can do the math. $240,000 difference. That's the widest it's been since 1989. Biden doesn't want to talk about that because that got worse. White people end up getting more money, having more wealth than they had before, and black people have less. So he won't be discussing that part. But that's how you come to a determination about what the racial wealth gap is. I've had Dr. Sandy Doherty on my show. He's an economist. He's discussed this. We've had it. We've talked about it. Dr. Derek Hamilton. I've had a number of doctors on my show. Dr. Elwood Watson's been on. Dr. Cornell West has been on. I've had several doctors, not just me reading articles and reading books, but actual professionals in academic professionals, doctorate degree having people that teach, have come on this show that you're watching and exposed this, worked it out, broken it down for us. Become a member of the Calling It Out Squad. This is what we do. So this is bogus as hell what Joe Biden's selling. It's horrible. It's phony. These are them spinning the numbers. This is them trying to get black votes without giving anything for black people. And anybody watching, tell a friend, say, look, Tim Black had this episode. It's on the racial wealth gap. It's on what Joe Biden's selling. Joe Biden's bringing it up. Here goes the truth about it, and hit play. Or send them the link. Let them watch for themselves. We have to wake people up. It's the only chance we got. So then we go on to the other part of this. This percent of black wealth has increased.
Black wealth has increased by 60%. We're across the board.
I don't know where they get this number, 60% more wealth. I don't understand what they're saying. That makes sense. But I can tell you where they're saying the numbers came from. They're saying since the pandemic, that 2.6 million jobs have been added. 2.6 million black jobs have been added. Joe Biden hasn't created black jobs. Here's what really happened, folks, and I want you to lean in here. Lean in here. Here, this. There were a lot of jobs that went away because of the shutdown. When those jobs closed down, people lost their jobs because you couldn't go to a job when it was closed.
Right.
After the pandemic opened back up, people went back to work. Is that a new job or is that you going back to your old job? That's people going back to their old jobs, Johnson. These are not new jobs. Mm-hmm. People, 41% of black businesses that closed during the pandemic have not reopened. Luckily, some businesses did reopen. People went back to work. Those are not new jobs. Those are not new black jobs. They're not new white jobs. They're just jobs, and people went back to work. Joe Biden is counting jobs that closed because he closed them with mandatory lockdowns. He's counting that as new jobs. Yep. Isn't that some dirty nonsense?
I've been saying that.
You can't go in your room for a week. Then you let them go in the room and say, hey, it's your new room. Damn, Dad, it looks like the room I already had. Because it is. It's not a new room. Oh, no. And since you're a black kid, it's a new black room. This is what the Democrats are doing. Instead of actually doing things that make your life better, so they can say, hey, thanks for those 95% of your votes, 90% of your votes, black community, almost twice as many than white voters. They say, hey, we're just going to put lipstick on a pig and call it Erykah Badu. Yeah, we're going to put lipstick on a pig and give her a name. We're going to call this pig Jill Scott. But that ain't Jill Scott. Jill Scott's a beautiful black woman. This ain't her. This is a pig named Jill Scott. This ain't Erykah Badu. Believe me, it's not Erykah Badu, but it is a pig named Erykah Badu. This ain't the same thing. I know what Erykah Badu is. I know what she look like. This ain't her. This is a pig. Where get this pig from? This is what the Democratic Party is doing. And they got all these talking heads that go, yeah, that's what Erykah Badu. No, that's not Erykah Badu. No, that's Jill Scott. That's not Jill Scott. That's Rihanna. No, those are pigs with lipstick on them that you are naming them. These famous, beautiful icons. You understand what I'm saying here? You get where I'm coming from? They had the earned income credit. This was a great thing. People were getting their tax money up front each month. That money was going for families, and those families were able to lift those black children out of poverty. So 40% of black children were being lifted out of poverty because of a part of the plan in that legislation. But guess what happened? It got removed. It ended, and it could not come back because they didn't have the votes. Get what I'm saying? So Joe Biden is still counting the 40% of black kids that were pulled out of poverty on a plan that no longer exists. Make it make sense, Johnson. Make it make sense. Listen to me. This is what the Democrats do. This is why I get so angry. Because people say to black, why you get so angry with the Democrats? Because they lie. They lie. They gaslight people into thinking they're doing great things. And they're not. Is it more than Trump? I don't know. But it's not enough, whatever this is that you're doing. You're lying and saying we're still getting those 40% of black children out of poverty when that ended over a year ago. They are still counting that today. It's part of how great black people are doing. Also, they're counting the stimmy money. They're counting stimulus money, which gave people more money, as if those people still had that money. And we all know that money gone. He still counts that as wealth. It was stimulation money. It's not wealth building money. That's not wealth. If you have wealth, you can't spend it in less than a year. $4 billion worth of infrastructure investment, roads, highways. He's calling that investment into the black community when there are roads and highways all across the country that got built or that are in the process of being built.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not wealth for black people. That is a road to nowhere. That ain't a road. How are we getting credit? How are you saying you're helping black people by helping roads and highways? That helps America. See, they use language. They use language to deceive us. They say they're helping black people. What they're doing is rebuilding the infrastructure of the country. They say, well, you live in the country, so it's black rebuilding. Yeah, they're rebuilding roads that they should have done 30 years ago. And they're saying, since black people use this road too, we're going to say it's a black road we're rebuilding. Well, it's just roads, man. Roads anybody can drive on. Roads that are just there.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of it, internet access. There are certain parts of the country that have very bad internet access. They are working on increasing that in a part of the connectivity program. That's the name of it, Affordable Connectivity Program. So some people get to pay some money to have faster internet speeds. Black people will benefit from this. This is not the black internet. This is not black people's internet, black people connectivity program. This is America Affordable Connectivity Plan. It helps everybody. It's not a special speed for black people. It's not something you put in there for black people to have a better speed or more speed or get a better internet access. No, but this is what the Democrats do. Once again, folks, they use language to deceive us and try to make believe that black people are getting something special. Ain't nothing special happening. We're at the bottom of the barrel. The country is moving on without us. The funds are flowing to Ukraine. They're flowing to the migrants. They're flowing to other issues, bombs. They're flowing to Israel. They're not flowing to the black community. And Joe Biden says, I got your back. If this is what having our back looks like, I don't want it because it's not enough. It's not helping enough. Folks, it's time to stand up. It's time we all stand up. I know there are people saying, hey, don't care about this stuff. It don't make no difference. It don't, never mind. Well, you know what? Let them say that. Listen, we have to be smarter than that. We have to see that Joe Biden is selling us some snake oil. He's lying to us. Every question that we ask the Democrats should not be responded with, but what about Trump? I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the Democratic Party. Black Americans don't vote Republican. We vote Democrat. So that's who we're showing up to ask questions of. I'm asking the Democratic Party, where's our supper? Where's our infrastructure? Where's our connectivity? Where are our jobs? Where are our business opportunities? Where is our business investment for Black Americans? We built this country for free, and we only have $15 for every $100 a black family got. A white family has. Think about that. If a white family has $10,000, we barely have over 1,000. Johnson, do the math. The math ain't mathin'.
The math ain't mathin'.
Yeah. Well, any thoughts about this?
Huh?
Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with him. I definitely, I mean, the empty promises and all of that stuff, like it also can be in class issues and things like that. But yeah, I agree with him. I also think that it sucks that they still only make 15 cents or $15 to every $100 that white people make, you know. Also with the pay gap in sexes as well is still really horrible. You know, it's all all problems all across the board, and every candidate is going to lie somehow to get elected, and then when they're elected, overtout the trickle down, sluggish progression that they actually do get done. So this is normal stuff for them. I've been, like when Tim Black said that the government is adding like a bunch of new jobs to America, I've been saying it for so long that we're not adding new jobs. If we were at like 75% full jobs for everybody in America before the pandemic, and we drop down to, let's say, 25%, we're not going to say that first 15% that you're getting in 2023, 2024 is new jobs, because you haven't even made it back to the equilibrium part of what you had before all of this. So I've been saying that for a really long time too. So I agree with him.
Well, I do think that it's a class war across the board.
Right.
It's partly racist and partly not racist, but I mean,
right. It's definitely a classist thing. There's definitely a lot of that, but we also have to respect the Black community and their suffering as well. So, we have to separate all the rest of that stuff and listen to what he has to say as well, about all that. And that's very important. And he's completely right about it as well.
Yeah, I used to be like totally indifferent, not opposed, but indifferent to reparations. But I mean, he did convince me that reparations is a good idea, because I mean, and it comes down to class ultimately, because if you can fix the financial problems and the constant rigging against Black America, I mean, the right wing wants to paint it as, oh well, we're now a racially colorblind society. Some right wingers will say that, and we're not. I mean, we're not. And I don't necessarily even harp on identity politics like that, but these are concerns that they're definitely needing to be addressed. And he once said that we don't have universal health care because of racism. Because there's a mindset that if we have something that's, race neutral, is class reductionist, universal health care. But for some people, they think, oh my God, Black people are going to get free health care. And it bothers them, when universal health care is for everybody,
right.
And, Biden, I mean, he was a segregationist in their early years with the concrete jungle statement when it came to busing. He was friends with Jesse Helms. He claimed he was arrested with Nelson Mandela, which is condescending and not true at all. The crime bill that he sponsored in 1994, which was atrocious, and it put a lot of Black men in prison in the 1990s that didn't even need to be there. And the condescending comment he made in 2020, remember when he was on the Breakfast Club? He says, "You're not for Biden, you're not Black." I mean, what kind of condescending remark that is,
I know. If you don't vote for me, then you're not Black. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I was.
Don't forget Anita Hill too. So.
Oh yeah, Anita Hill, absolutely, yep. Yeah. So, yeah, the list goes on. I mean, I didn't feel any guilt when I voted third party in 2020. So.
Yep, I agree. I mean, even Kamala Harris was asked about it, because during her campaign running against Biden, she was talking about how he was against busing, and she was one of those girls, and he was against busing. And then when she became his VP pick, she changed her complete mind. So there's even proof that he was, against busing. So don't sit here and say that, of course there's a smidgen of racism in him. Anybody that's considered a boomer probably still has a tinge of racism somewhere.
Yeah, and he's, I mean, he's toast, and it didn't have to be this way. There were some things he could have done that would have actually made a tremendous difference. But I think that on principle he's going to lose, because he's beholden to the establishment.
Right.
And
No, I know. I don't agree. I think that even if he did everything, like even if he protected Roe v. Wade and, he was like the perfect president so far, I think the whole thing that's going on in Palestine right now and his decisions on that has totally ruined him completely. Any
No,
chances.
that's just true. That's true. That's his Vietnam in many ways, because Lyndon Johnson did a lot. Now, Lyndon Johnson, compared to Joe Biden, he actually done remarkable things during his presidency on the domestic level. He was still a war criminal from Vietnam, but I mean, he did a lot for African Americans. He did a lot to attack poverty across the board. And one of the few people said, well, no, the Great Society was actually kind of successful. Vietnam was the thing that ruined it for LBJ.
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing Great Society didn't do, it didn't go far enough. That's the domestic economic program called Great Society just didn't go far enough.
Right. Well, speaking of our upcoming president, our fine fellowed Bernie Sanders VP pick went on, Tulsi Gabbard went on to a show called Triggered, which I guess is Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast on Rumble. I had no idea.
How did
She went on to his show and got a little bit of an interview, and they clipped out a minute of it asking whether or not she would want to be Trump's VP pick. So let's hear what she's got to say about that.
All about vice president, something I've also seen a bunch here, and actually for the last few weeks. How are you responding to that call?
I'd be honored. I'd be honored to serve my country in that way. I'd be honored to actually be in a position to help President Trump execute his policies, bringing the experience that I have had of being on the front lines of many of these battles and actually understanding what we're up against. And so whether you're talking about securing the border, reducing inflation, improving our economy, stopping these Democrats and establishment Republicans, stopping these warmongers from continuing to push us closer and closer to war, not just in one country, but in multiple regions across the world. These are things, if I had the opportunity and privilege of being able to serve and support President Trump in actually executing these policies, I'd be honored to do so.
What's your prediction for 2024 right now?
I'm encouraged to see the polls showing that President Trump is leading President Biden in many of these key states, but I think it is critical. It is critical that no one.
You said you can't hear it much. Okay. She said she was honored if Trump asked her to be a VP pick, and that she would like to have some position to stop the warmongers from starting ridiculous wars, which I mean that's the video right there. I don't know if she remembers when Trump was president during those 4 years, but the coup d'etat in Venezuela, trying to say Juan Guaido was the president there, allowing a country to kill General Soleimani, bringing the American embassy into Jerusalem, which kind of still increased what is going on today. Like that was still a part of what was going on, the Abraham Accords as well, to which it roller coaster to even more into what is going on today in Palestine too. So her saying that she wants a chance at having a VP pick to stop warmongering, I'm pretty sure Trump is not going to be the guy that you're going to be able to talk that into. I'm sorry.
Here's the thing about Tulsi, and I talk about Tulsi a lot, and I came to the conclusion she is a massive grifter, because she started out as she was supposed to be, when she got elected in 2012 into Congress, Obama and Clinton looked at her as the future. They were going to groom her after the 2 terms of Obama and the 2 terms of Clinton that they were anticipating. She was going to continue, and she was a down the line Democrat. And then she saw Bernie and saw that movement growing in 2016. So she hopped on board the Bernie train, basically, because she knew that was where the movement was at the moment. And that time has passed, and she's grifted into this. She's an independent that ended up endorsing every Republican that walked around her way. And now she's wanting to be Trump's VP. Well, here's the thing. The Republican Party might have problems with her because she's Hindu. They want a Christian. They want a Christian ticket. And she start going to some non-denominational church and she's all happy clappy about Jesus all in the next couple of weeks. That's definitely a grift right there. So and it would actually make more sense for her to be RFK's running mate at this point.
Yeah, that would probably be a better one as well. It just was interesting to see her on Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast talking about being possibly the VP pick for his dad. So that was interesting.
She might get a spot in the administration if Trump is brought back. She might get a spot in the administration. But Tulsi is an opportunist. I mean, she's scattered and all over the place, more than I've ever seen anybody. I'm just waiting for to see where her next grift is going to be.
Right. Same. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So do you want to continue or do you want to end it here?
Let's see. I don't know how many minutes is the Assange. I don't remember how many minutes that video is. Is it
20.
I'm trying to think. Maybe we can just probably do that one if I can think about it next week. So
I'll save it in the Google Docs for you for sure.
Yeah.
And then I've got one too, but we don't even need to bring it up next week. If you guys have the time, go and watch the debate with Destiny and Norm Finkelstein on the Lex Friedman podcast. It is 5 hours long, but it is really, really good. It's good to see Norm Finkelstein lose his shit on a little Wikipedia debate, bro. Dude that drives me absolutely insane because he just talks so fast that he thinks that because he talks so fast that he knows everything. So it was really good to see Norm Finkelstein just kind of lose his shit on Destiny. It was a really good debate, but it is 5 hours, so make sure you got some time.
Yeah, Norman Finkelstein wants to debate Ben Shapiro, but Ben Shapiro never answered because I mean,
he's chicken. He's chicken.
He is chicken. He's definitely chicken. I never did get the Destiny thing. I mean, I listened to him a little bit. He just always bored me.
He always bored you. It's a trend. The sitting there with your chat on the screen, just watching random stuff and talking about it and Googling it and coming to conclusions on things by research online with everybody. It's the thing to do. I mean, Hassan Piker does the same thing. There's Vosh out there doing the same thing. It's just a style of that a lot of people really like because I mean, like I don't watch them, but I like that style because I could just put it on and then throw it in the background while I'm doing other things. And it's really nice to just have up-to-date things that are going on right now while you're watching. So it's a lot nicer. I don't know. It's interesting and cool. I don't know. Destiny, I guess, has been really popular for a while just because of his intellect, but he definitely has a grifting problem. Yeah, it was good to see Norm Finkelstein go after him for sure. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I could imagine because anybody taking Norman Finkelstein, his presence and his vocal style. I mean, there's just no way anybody could just take that on.
Right. It was interesting that Lex Friedman even wanted to put those two in the same room as if they're both equals too. Like you got this, YouTuber who looks up everything on Wikipedia all day long, sitting across the table from a guy who's literally studied the Israel and Palestine conflict for years and years, wrote books about it and things like that too. So it was interesting to see two dynamic, you know, the man that actually knows things and the guy that thinks he knows everything. So it's something I haven't seen ever before, a dynamic together. So it's really cool to see that, and how easy an academic can like lose their shit on a little know-it-all YouTuber.
Yeah, I just
It
I mean,
insulted your intelligence. I watched it 4 times. All right, you know how many brain cells I've lost? I'm just
I'm gonna have to watch it. I've been meaning to, but just haven't gotten around to it yet. Maybe it's something. As I said, I do tend to listen to a lot of podcasts as I fall asleep in the daytime. So
There you
maybe
go.
I can take mental notes while I'm sleeping.
It was so hard for me because I had to watch it on regular speed, because Destiny, when he talks really fast. So like I could listen to him on regular speed, but then when Norm Finkelstein talks, I have to listen to him at like 1.5, 1.75 speed, because he's such a slow talker. So in my head, man, I was like, when they would go back and forth with each other, it'd be like a really fast talker and then a really slow talker. And I'm just like, my brain is just overwhelmed, overstimulated so much because of it. But it was good. There was one guy that was sitting next to Norm Finkelstein who had a very nice, calming voice. Anytime he talked, it seemed like the room just got silent. It was very interesting, the kind of presence that guy had in that room as well. I enjoyed that man, the one that was sitting next to Norm. I don't know who he is. I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what are your plans this week?
Let's see. I'll probably be streaming some gaming this week as normal on my Twitch channel. I've been doing some Helldivers, some Sons of the Forest. I'll probably do some Weed Shop Simulator. I don't know, whatever I feel like. And then this Saturday, as usual, the Secret Show with Warren at midnight Eastern. I think that's all I've got.
All
What about you?
Basically, if I get a chance, I'll do some streaming. And of course, I live on Twitter these days. It's not X, it's Twitter. And the hell with Elon Musk. At work, and that's pretty much. And a little bit of quality time before my parents take their flight next week. So
there you go.
And other than that, same old.
Same old. There you go. All right. So then we will see you guys all same place, same time, same toilet.
Yep, pretty much. Free Palestine, free Assange, free healthcare for all, and free speech. And remember, specifically go on Braggland's YouTube channel and subscribe to us. Help build this channel.
That's right.
We're begging you.
That's right. Stay high and get us high. Thank you guys. Peace.
Peace.